Do you want me to start earlier?
No, perfect. Sorry.
No, you're good.
Good morning. Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Society. We are grateful to gather on this beautiful morning in person and online for a time of inspiration, reflection, and connection. Whether you join us today with joy in your hearts, weighted with burdens, or searching for meaningful connections, we are really glad you're here today. I'm Quanda Hood, a worship associate of the Unitarian Universalist Society. My pronouns are she, her. I'm an average height, mixed race woman in my 50s with curly brown hair, wearing glasses, standing in the UUS pulpit at the front of our sanctuary. Our sanctuary and adjoining commons are filled with people of all ages. And through the window walls of our sanctuary, we connect to the natural world around us, where it is an absolutely gorgeous day. As we gather, we give thanks for this land and for all who have cared for it over the centuries, particularly the Kickapoo, the Iowa, the Sauk, the Meskwaki, and the Ocheti-Sakowin nations. As people of many ages, genders, races, sexual orientations, classes, abilities, and health statuses, we know how important it is to come together and work together to create a radically welcoming spiritual community. As Unitarian Universalists, our faith expresses our core value of love through how we agree to be together and to support one another. We are guided by the shared principles, resources, and values of our living religious tradition, and this morning we tried to narrow this down to one or two principles, but after talking it through, we feel like what we're going to present today really touches every one of our principles, including the eighth principle. If you're newer to the congregation, we invite you to learn more about us after the service. For those who are here in person, you can talk to a greeter in the atrium. For those online, there is a link to a visitor form in the YouTube notes that will let us connect with you. Out of the Flames by Reverend Sarah Eileen Lawal. Out of the flames of fear, we rise with courage to our deepest convictions to stand for justice, inclusion, and peace. Out of the flames of scrutiny, we rise to proclaim our faith with hope to heal a fractured and hurting world. Out of the flames of doubt, we rise to embrace the mystery, wonder, and awe of all there is and all there is yet to be. Out of the flames of hate, we rise with a force of love, love that celebrates our shared humanity. Out of the flames, we rise. In the gray book.
Oh, I thought it was this one first.
And if you're following in the gray book, we're doing verses 1, 2, 5, and 6.
Gentle, angry Good morning. I'm Emily Johnson, a UUS worship associate. I'm a white woman in my mid-30s, and my pronouns are she, her. As Unitarian Universalists, we light a flame within a chalice as a symbol of sanctuary and safety to unite us in our worship and to remind us of our ongoing search for the light of truth. Please join me in saying our chalice lighting words as Chrissy lights our chalice. Life is a gift for which we are grateful. We gather in community to celebrate the wonder and mystery of this great gift. So let us now kindle the flame of our liberal religious heritage and renew our covenant of mutual love and care. Love is our doctrine, the quest for truth is our sacrament, and service is our prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge and freedom, and to serve those in need. This we promise, this we covenant with life and one another. Each week, we light a candle for justice and healing to acknowledge our interdependence with the natural world and with all members of the global community, especially the most vulnerable. We light this candle so that we may not be numbed to injustice and trauma, but rather find strength, courage, and love as we work in solidarity with others for liberation, justice, and healing. Together, we create resilience and hope. Today, as we light this candle, we're particularly mindful of those killed and injured while in schools, while praying, while in refugee sites, and we hope for a ceasefire in Gaza soon. As I light this candle, let's hold a time of silence to listen to our hearts and bodies, or perhaps to lift up prayers.
Good morning. My name is Nick Kaplan. My pronouns are they, them. I am the grateful director of Lifespan Religious Education here at UUS. Today we have a storybook, so I would like to invite all my friends in from the RE Commons to come grab a cushion or a chair, and anyone who would like to come up and see the physical book a little closer, you're welcome to. Pictures will also be up on the screens. Are you coming in for our story? Awesome. Come join us. Our story today is The Year We Learned to Fly. It was written by Jacqueline Woodson and illustrated by Rafael Lopez. The Year We Learned to Fly. Do you know how to fly? No. You don't fly? Well, let's listen to how they learned to fly.
Is it a butterfly?
Oh, good guess. Maybe it's a butterfly. That was the year we learned to fly. That was the spring when the rain seemed like it would never stop, and the thunder boomed so hard we weren't allowed to go outside. Use those beautiful and brilliant minds of yours, my grandmother said. Lift your arms, close your eyes, take a deep breath, and believe in a thing. Somebody, somewhere, at some point, was just as bored as you are now. So my brother and I closed our eyes, and for a few minutes that first day, we weren't stuck in our apartment anymore. You see, there they are. imagining something else. We were flying over the city we'd known our whole lives, but it was suddenly different, exploding with every kind of flower we'd ever dreamed of growing. That was the summer we learned to fly, when my brother and I couldn't stop fussing with each other over whose turn it was to wash the windows, to feed the dog, to clean the kitchen. We fought and frowned and made silent promises to never speak to each other ever again. Why is he wearing a bucket? That's a good question. I don't know why he has a bucket on his head. Oh, maybe. So what does grandmother do? My grandmother said, lift your arms, close your eyes, take a deep breath, and stop being so mean about everything. Somebody, somewhere, at some point, was just as mad as you are now. So we did. And as the soft wind took us over the city and past the windows of kids who hadn't yet learned to fly, my brother and I reached for each other's hands, flying and diving and laughing, and leaving all our mad far behind us. I don't think so. Okay. That was the autumn. Our rooms felt too big and lonely, with only us in them and the darkness coming on so fast. But while we hugged ourselves against the too quiet of it all, we remembered that we didn't have to be stuck anywhere anymore. My grandmother had learned to fly from the people who came before. They were aunts and uncles and cousins who were brought here on huge ships, their wrists and ankles cuffed in iron. But, my grandmother said, nobody can ever cuff your beautiful and brilliant mind. So our people learned to fly, she said. They dreamed a thing and made it happen, closed their eyes and flew away home. Lift your arms, my grandmother said. Close your eyes and remember somebody, somewhere, at some point, had to figure out they could fly. That was the winter we moved away from the building and the block and the friends we'd always known. There they are, moving away to a street where the kids looked at us funny and didn't even answer when we asked them if they wanted to play. It's okay, I said to my brother. Somebody, somewhere, at some point, had to figure out they were ready for anything new coming their way. So, like the people who came before us, we lifted our arms even higher, closed our eyes even tighter, breathed in even deeper, and flew the way we'd always known how to, free as the aunties and uncles and cousins who'd come before us, free as our own beautiful and brilliant minds. For a long time, the kids on the ground watched us. Then, one by one, they lifted their arms. One by one, they too learned to fly. That is the end of our story today. I'm going to set that right here. And now we've come to the time in our service where children and religious education teachers and anyone who's interested in joining us outside for religious education class will come together. We will light our lantern and go outside. Our friend lighting our lantern today is Dara, but if anyone who would like to come outside with us can come up front, Dara can light our lantern and lead the way as Christine and Art lead us with Kendra in our lantern ritual song.
Take with you the flame from our chalice. Take with you the light and the hope. Take with you the blessings and love. Explore our faith and grow. Take this flame as you go. Take with you the flame from our chalice. Take with you the light and the hope. Take with you the blessings and love. Explore our faith and grow. Take this flame as you go.
Nurturing gratitude and how we understand and express interdependence is part of how we live into our Unitarian Universalist faith. As we enter into our time of meditation, contemplation, and prayer, we acknowledge the joys and sorrows of our congregation. We do this by dropping stones into a bowl of water, symbolically immersing our personal joys and sorrows into the flow of the congregation's joys and sorrows. The water surrounds and holds the stone, just as we are surrounded and held by the love and support of this congregation. For those who would like to share their joys or sorrows in conversation in a smaller venue, the Pastoral Care Associates will be leading a Compassionate Connection Circle immediately after today's worship service. These circles happen on the second and fourth Sundays and are an opportunity to share with and support each other in our lives' journeys. If you're participating in our service elsewhere, you may wish to meditatively hold a stone, wash your hands, or meditate on an object near you. And now if you're in the sanctuary and if you feel called to do so, please come forward, take a stone from the basket, and place your stone in the water as Kendra plays.
morning again. I'm going to share something with you. I'm going to warn you ahead of time. I am no Morgan Freeman. So when you get where we're going, I'm not going to sound like that. I want to share with you an article and then a poem. I thought it was important to read this article because it really breaks down the poem nicely. The Hidden Layers of Invictus, a deep dive into the poem's symbolism and meaning. William Ernest Henley's poem Invictus has been a source of inspiration and motivation for many, with its powerful message of resilience and determination. However, beyond its surface meaning, the poem also holds deeper layers of symbolism and meaning that reveal a profound message. In this article, we will take a deep dive into the hidden layers of Invictus and explore its symbolic representation. The title of the poem is Invictus. It's a Latin word that translates to unconquered and undefeated. This sets the tone for the entire poem, as it is a declaration of strength and resilience in the face of adversity. The use of Latin also adds a sense of timelessness and universality to this poem, making it acceptable for all. The symbolism of night. The first line of the poem, "Out of the night that covers me," sets the scene for the rest of the poem. "Out of the night that covers me" is a powerful phrase from the poem Invictus. This line suggests that the speaker is in a dark and challenging situation, symbolized by the night that surrounds them. However, the use of the word "covers" implies that the speaker is not overwhelmed or defeated by this darkness. Instead, they emerge from it, suggesting resilience and strength. This line can be seen as a metaphor for the overcoming adversity and finding the inner strength to rise above difficult circumstances. It conveys a message of hope and determination, inspiring readers to persevere in the face of challenges. The symbolism of the pit. In the second stanza, the speaker mentions bludgeonings of chance and the pit from pole to pole. This pit represents the depths of despair and hopelessness that one can experience in life. It is a symbol of the challenges and obstacles that the speaker has faced, but he refuses to let consume him. The phrase "pit to pole" is, in this context, conveys a sense of enduring and unyielding strength. It suggests that no matter the challenges of adversities one may face, they are determined to persevere and overcome. In Pole to Pole, Henley emphasizes these challenges are pervasive and extend across all aspects of life, from the highest highs to the lowest lows. It signifies a profound resilience and indomitable spirit that refuses to be defeated. The symbolism of the wrath of tears. The third stanza talks about wrath and tears. The phrase "wrath and tears" in the context of Invictus carries a powerful and profound message. It suggests that despite facing immense challenges and adversity, one remains resilient and determined. The word "wrath" implies the intensity of the struggles faced, while tears symbolize the emotional toll that these challenges can take. Together, they represent the range of hardships that one might encounter in life. However, the use of the word Invictus, meaning unconquerable and undefeated, suggests that despite these difficulties, one remains unbroken and undefeated. This phrase encapsulates the spirit of perseverance and the refusal to succumb to life's obstacles. The symbolism of fate. The final stanza in the poem is perhaps the most powerful. It reveals the true meaning and symbolism of Invictus. The phrase "master of my fate" encapsulates the idea of personal agency and resilience in the face of adversity. It emphasizes the power of the individual to control their own destiny and overcome the challenges by asserting oneself as the master of one's own fate. One takes ownership of one's choices, decisions, and actions, refusing to be defined and limited by external circumstances. The mindset encourages a sense of empowerment, determination, inspiration, individuals to persevere and forge their own path, regardless of the obstacles they may encounter. It serves as a reminder of your own will and resistance. The Revelation 19 meaning and symbolism. Many have drawn parallels between Invictus and the biblical passage of Revelation 19, which speaks of a victorious and conquering figure. The use of the phrase, "My head is bloodied but not unbowed, and the menace of the years finds and shall find me unafraid." In the poem, it can be seen as a reference to the battle between good and evil. This adds another layer of symbolism and meaning to this beautiful poem, reinforcing the message of triumph over adversity. In conclusion, Invictus is a poem that holds deep layers of symbolism and meaning, making it a timeless and powerful piece of literature. Its message of resilience and determination resonates. Gotta find it. There we go. Come on. Oh. Okay. Out of the night that covers me, black as the pit, pole to pole, I thank whatever gods may be for my unconquerable soul. In the fell clutch of circumstance, I have not winced nor cried out loud. Under the bludgeoning of chance, my head is bloody, but unbowed. Beyond this place of wrath and tears looms the horror of the shade, and yet the menace of the years finds and shall find me unafraid. It matters not how straight the gate, how charged with punishments the scroll. I am the master of my fate. I am the captain of my soul.
So our next reading is titled Imagine. It's written by Reverend Lynn Ungar. Imagine with me for a moment. Don't worry, I'm not saying it's real. Imagine, if you can, that there has been not a calamity, but a great awakening. Pretend just for a moment that we all so loved our threatened earth that we stopped going on cruises, limited international flights, worked on cherishing the places where we already are. In this pretty fantasy, everyone who possibly can stops commuting, spends the extra time with their kids or pets or garden. We have the revelation that everyone needs health care, sick leave, steady work. It occurs to us that healthcare workers are heroes, and teachers too. Not to mention the artists of all kinds who teach us resilience and joy. Imagine, if you will, that we turned to our neighbors in mutual aid, trading eggs for milk, checking in on those who are elderly or alone. Imagine that each of us felt suddenly called to wonder, in this moment, what does the world need from me? What are my gifts? Yes, I know, it's just a fantasy. The world could never change so radically overnight. But imagine. So now we are very lucky and excited to be joined by the Executive Director of the Center for Worker Justice, which is this month's community partner agency. So I'd like to introduce Executive Director Ayman Sharif, and just wanted to give a brief description of the Center for Worker Justice, and then Ayman will come up and tell us a little bit more about the organization. So the Center for Worker Justice pursues social and economic justice through community empowerment, leadership development, popular education, coalition building, organizing, mobilizing, and policy advocacy to drive structural and institutional change. So please join me in welcoming Ayman to speak.
Good morning. Yeah. I'm very honored to be here today. My name is Ayman Sharif. I lived in this community since 2013, immigrating from Africa and the Middle East, both. Urban planner by training, and I worked for the city of Iowa City for a little bit before joining the Center for Worker Justice as a director in May of 2023. So the Center for Worker Justice as many of you may know, has been founded since 2012. It's an organization, a member-based organization that is highly guided by immigrant community and low-wage workers. The organization stands for issues of justice, equity, and also for the workers' well-being in general. We do that through education, we do that through organizing, and we do that through really doing many of the work that can really improve the skills and power of our immigrant communities and our low-wage workers. We have a big focus on issues like wage theft as a big thing that is happening. All of us know that there's a lot of exploitation, mainly happening because of the laws at the federal or our local, at the state level, are either not strong enough in support of workers or don't have like enough tools or reinforcing or monitoring that would necessarily allow more and more of this exploitation. We really take this holistic approach that cares for workers when they are encountering these cases of wage theft, or when they are, it's a holistic approach, so even not only in the workplace, but outside the workplace as well, we try to fight those things through education, through letting the people understand their rights, workers, and be ready to claim those rights. Since 2012, since the inception, we were able to recover more than $250,000 of stolen wages. Just for this 2024, we recovered, not only recovered, but we received, we are now handling cases of wage theft of more than $100,000. Not all of them are resolved, but this is just to indicate really the magnitude of the issue itself. Other things we do is really supporting people, immigrant communities specifically during this really heated political environment. We have been supporting our community during this legislation session and ongoing Senate filing 2340. It has been a very difficult time for many of the immigrant communities here who felt like they are really criminalized by this new set of laws and stuff. We've been reassuring people, we've been campaigning, letting people understand their rights, and also preparing for the worst scenarios when they occur by organizing and planning for rapid response groups that can really help and support mitigate situations when they happen. Another area that is very important is what is happening in affordable housing. There's a lot of issues in that area as well. People, especially low-wage workers, low-income people, immigrant groups are really facing a lot of problems when they're in mobile home parks. They also do the same in apartment buildings and low-income housing. They do the same as well when they are using government housing programs like Section 8. All those issues, the problem being is the same. The laws allow now, as you all know, allow for more and more power to investors and owners, and the result is people having more problems finding those housing opportunities. When they find them, they also encounter exploitation and mistreatment and providing like the decent housing that everyone is really hoping for. Now we all know that, for example, Section 8 The list is more than 10,000 that the Iowa City Housing Authority is now closing the waiting list because they just don't have, they cannot take more than that. And they know for sure that there's no housing available for this sector of this or this group of people. At the same time, less and less property owners and landlords are interested, again, because of the laws, in participating in those programs. There's nothing to incentivize them or really get them to provide that housing. So the result is always more and more people are getting kicked out of houses, families and kids. Just yesterday, a family called me. They are in a hotel because of the same, because they are in Section 8, but the owner is not interested in having Section 8, so he has the pleasure to sending out when the contract is ended, and they don't have any other place to accommodate the family. Kids and parents are in a hotel, God knows for how long. So those are the kind of issues that really we help for address wherever possible. We fight on all those fronts. We are very honored by our strong and solid relationship with the faith community. We are also very honored with our very strong relationship with UUS. We're looking forward to always to have this support to make our life better now and into the future. I'm so glad to be here in front of you, and thank you so much for allowing this opportunity for me to come and speak for all of you, and God bless all of you. Thank you so much.
So, how we give, what we do with our lives, our time, and our resources is a reflection of our values. To live out our mission, values, and principles each week, Sunday's offering goes to an organization in the community that this congregation has chosen to support. And this month, our community partner agency is the Center for Worker Justice, which we were so lucky to just hear from. So in the sanctuary, the ushers will collect the offering, or you can follow the instructions on the screen for how to give online. All cash contributions go directly to our community partner agency. You may use the memo line of a check or the online giving portal to designate a contribution to the Center for Worker Justice or your annual pledge or additional operating expenses. As we conduct the offering, we also recognize the many non-financial contributions that keep our congregation running and that members of our congregation provide to the broader community. Your support, in whatever form it takes, makes a meaningful difference.
Thank you so much. That was beautiful. Many, many, many moons ago, I used to play that instrument, not nearly as well. I'm here in front of you today on behalf of Reverend Diana, so lower the bar. And this is a presentation of a sermon that she chose called A Theology of Resistance, written by Reverend Douglas Taylor. We who believe in freedom cannot rest. We who believe in freedom cannot rest until it comes, until the killing of black men, black mothers' sons, is as important as the killing of white men and white mothers' sons. We who believe in freedom cannot rest. We who believe in freedom cannot rest until it comes. Ella Baker. In 1982, Sweet Honey in the Rock, on their album Breaths, had this song entitled Ella's Song. Ella Baker was one of the behind-the-scenes movers and shakers of the civil rights era. She participated in organizations and structures that affected change. She was a field secretary and later a branch director of the NAACP. Ella helped organize Dr. King's Southern Christian Leadership Conference. She was a founding member of the Students' Nonviolence Coordinating Committee and a major organizer of the Mississippi Freedom Democratic Party. She was a quiet leader in these organizations. She remains comparatively unknown aside the big names, the men, which history remembers, of the civil rights movement of the 1960s. The song written by Bernice Johnson Reagan of Sweet Honey on the Rock immortalizes Ella's words of struggle, hope, and freedom. Ella Baker was a woman of power who helped others realize their power. She was a friend and advisor to Dr. King and is noted to have argued with him at times. In his 1963 book, Strength to Love, Dr. King wrote, "The trailblazers in human, academic, scientific, and religious freedom have always been nonconformists. In any cause that concerns the progress of mankind, put your faith in the nonconformists." Ella was a nonconformist, to be sure. She was a woman who spoke out and acted out and challenged the racist and sexist structures of oppression. Ella was a trailblazer for freedom. I am a woman who speaks in a voice and I must be heard. At times, it can be quite difficult. I bow to no man's word. Who we believe in freedom cannot rest. We who believe in freedom cannot rest until it comes. The path to freedom during the civil rights movement of the 1960s was through nonviolent resistance. The nonviolent component is the piece that we often hear about. The nonviolent aspect was the radical new method that turned everything upside down. And the only problem with our continual lifting up and praising of the nonviolent facet of the movement is the risk of losing the other half of the equation. It was not simply nonviolent, it was nonviolent direct action, nonviolent resistance. The 18th chapter of the Gospel according to Luke, Jesus tells the parable of the persistent widow. He said, "In a certain town there is a judge who neither feared God nor cared about men. And when there was a widow in front of that town who kept coming to him with the plea, 'Grant me justice against my adversary.' For some time he refused, but finally he said to himself, 'Even though I don't fear God or care about men, yet because this widow keeps bothering me, I will see that she gets justice, so that she won't eventually wear me out with her coming up.'" I don't know about you, but this small parable surprised me when I bumped into it. It doesn't just seem like the kind of thing you would find in the Bible. It's just so pragmatic. I'll see that she gets justice so that she won't eventually wear me out. Ella's story reminds me of this widow in the parable from the Gospel of Luke. The persistence of people who seek justice, who accomplish reform, who make difference is remarkable. The persistence of those who will not sit down and wallow in pity of those who stand up to injustice through the odds, though the odds are stacked against them. Of those who stare unjust authority in the face and say, "Grant me justice against my adversary." It is remarkable indeed. The persistence of those who practice resistance is the key to accomplishing justice. We who believe in freedom cannot rest. We who believe in freedom cannot rest until it comes. Ella Baker understood that organizations are necessary to achieve justice. As you perhaps have heard me say before, goodness must be organized. There seems to be a recurring half-truth among people of faith that the highest form of religion and spirituality is some sort of mystical asceticism or monastic retreat from the material world to focus on the sweet nectar of solo divine communion. We are by no means free from this misconception. Our own Henry David Thoreau is remembered so fondly for his retreat into Walden. His theology of self-reliance and freedom of conscience is highly revered among us. Thoreau's reverence for nature, his self-sufficiency, and insistence that everyone march to the beat of his or her own heart, or drummer. His severe distaste for organized government and distrust of authority goes to the heart of many Unitarian Universalists. Thoreau poses an odd mix of retreat and engagement, but both actions are a form of faithful resistance. On the 4th of July, 1845, Thoreau moved into his rough-hewn cabin on Walden Pond, on the outskirts of Concord. He wrote that one colleague, Reverend Patrick O'Neill, has called his immortal apologia for retreating into the sanctuary of natural surroundings far from the maddening crowd. I went to the woods because I wished to live deliberately, to front not only the essential facts of life and see if I could not learn what it had to teach, and not when I came to die, discovered that I had not lived. And 2 years later, when he came out of Walden, he wrote, I left the woods for as good a reason as I went there. Perhaps it seemed to me that I had several more lives to live and could not spend any more time on that one. The account of Thoreau's time at Walden was not published for several years. When it was published, it was received with great acclaim. But when Henry David Thoreau came out of that Walden, what he presented to the world was his short essay on civil disobedience. Dr. Martin Luther King kept a dog-eared copy of that short essay on hand for sustenance and encouragement. When Thoreau came out of Walden, what he presented to the world was the common thread between his book Walden and his essay Civil Disobedience is the faithful resistance to conformity, the commitment to one's own conscience. Resistance is not isolation, it is engagement with a vision towards justice for a better tomorrow. Struggling myself don't mean a whole lot. I've come to realize that teaching others to stand up and fight is the only way my struggle survives. We who believe in freedom cannot rest. We who believe in freedom cannot rest until it's done. Back when I was living in Montgomery County, Maryland, I participated in a grassroots interfaith political lobbying group called Action in Montgomery, or AIM. This was based on the Industrial Areas Foundation that was founded by Saul Alinsky in Chicago in the 1940s. People from all sorts of faiths, Jewish, Catholic, mainline Protestant, and Unitarian Universalists, came together to advocate for issues of common concern in the community. Many people were involved from the start with a reflection and discussion about what needs were. I showed up after things were already cooking. I walked in when it was time for the action to start. I remember in particular an AIM meeting my family and I attended on county funding for housing held at a little Methodist church. Over 200 people from nearly 15 churches tried hard that evening to fit into a very small sanctuary. My family had sat up in the choir seats next to the pulpit. If I can't be in the pulpit, just put me in the choir, and I'll be happy. It was a great meeting, exciting and efficient, the kind of mix between a tent revival and a well-run finance committee meeting. Near the end of the meeting, there was a call to action. Now, we've talked about power before, said the speaker, calling us to action. We need some power now to see this housing proposal safely through the budget process of the county council. We've got power right here in this room tonight. We are that power. My daughter leaned over to my wife and whispered, "We have the power?" "Yes, we do," my wife responded. "Do I have the power?" my daughter asked. Incredulously, "Yes," my wife said, smiling. "You do." My daughter and I responded to the call of action and signed up to help see the proposal through. It was fascinating to sit with my 11-year-old daughter talking about the dedicated funding line in the county budget with a member of the city council. The older I get, the better I know the secret of my going on is when the reins are in the hands of the young, who dare to run against the storm, who believe in freedom, cannot rest. We who believe in freedom cannot rest until it's done. Ella Baker was affectionately known as the Fundi, which is a Swahili word for a person who passes skills from one generation to another. Through her efforts with school desegregation and the organizing of the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee, Baker helped shape the civil rights movement in a very basic way, by doing it without seeking fame or recognition and truly making a difference. To me, young people come first. They have the courage where we fail. And if I can but shed some light as they carry us through the gale, we who believe in freedom cannot rest. We who believe in freedom cannot rest until it comes. So what about you? Do you have the power? Do you believe in freedom? Will you persist against injustice until unjust authority is worn out? Are you a nonconformist? Can you shed some light? Will you wade in the water? And are you part of the resistance? Perhaps you were thinking you came to this faith to retreat from the maddening crowd, to restore your soul, and to find a deeper spiritual connection with God. You didn't sign up for resistance. Well, first I will say, okay, that's fine. But you know, of course, that your retreat is a form of faithful resistance. Resisting the subtle and pervasive pressures to conformity. And second, I will say, at some point, you must come out from the retreat and engage the maddening world in active resistance. At some point, you must leave Walden, for you are all in a time of great need for justice and resistance. It is time for you to leave Walden, for you have some more lives to live and cannot spend any more time in that one. Colleague and wise soul Alice Blair Wellesley says, "We are all the kings, presidents, generals, CEOs, mafia dons, and celebrities put together. It's ultimately far less important that we people in free churches do when the people faithfully seek together to find and live out the ways of love. That is why we were here. That is the grand purpose for which this is and any other free church exists, to grow and to serve, to faithfully seek together and find and live out the ways of love, to be a community of resistance." When you joined this congregation, you signed up for resistance. Dr. King wrote, "We are called to be a people of conviction, not conformity, of moral nobility, not social respectability. We are commanded to live differently and according to a higher loyalty. As Unitarian Universalists, we too are called in this way. We are not called to be respectable among other religions. We are not called to be palatable or popular or within the proximity of prevailing opinion. We are called upon to be radical, to be a community of resistance, to be the light in the world, the salt of the earth. Indeed, most churches are somewhat countercultural. Much of what goes on is against the grain of the pervasive culture. Loving one another rather than competing with one another, giving yourself away rather than spending money to gather things to you. The first shall be the last, and the last shall be the first, and all that sort of thing. But Unitarian Universalist churches are both counter to the pervading culture as well as counter to too much of standard church culture too. Here we strive to be not only countercultural, but radically transformative of culture as well. Not needing for clutch of power, not needing the light just to shine on me. I need to be the one in the number as we stand against tyranny. We who believe in freedom cannot rest. We who believe in freedom cannot rest until it comes. Welcome to the resistance. Here we insist that all are welcome. All are inherently worthy and equally filled with human dignity. Here we buck conformity and call each to live as a human being, not as a market niche, not as a label, not as an illness, not as a stereotype. Welcome to the resistance. Stand up and be counted among those who are human in community, because together we can change this world. In a world without end, may it be so. And being a little bit of a nonconformist, I just want to say 19 days ago, I felt the greatest joy and hope that I have felt in a long time to bend the arc of justice where it needs to go. Thank you.
May what has been shared today help us more fully affirm our interconnection and live into love and justice. Immediately after the service, we gather in the fellowship hall and outside for conversation and community. If you're a newcomer, we hope you'll grab a snack and then sit down at any table so folks can join you for some conversation. For those who would like to share their joys or sorrows in conversation in a smaller venue, again, the Pastoral Care Associates will be leading a compassionate connection circle immediately after today's service. And now to close our service today, we will sing hymn number 1007. Please rise in body or in spirit as you're able. Please join me in the words for extinguishing the chalice. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. All these we carry in our hearts and in our minds until we are together again.
Let Our Lives Be a Prayer by Reverend Joel Miller. Let our lives be a prayer that waters dry souls, mends broken hearts, refuses to be terrorized, seeks this world's beauty, and carries us through its storms. Blessed be.
Amen.